Welcome, lords and ladies, to a very, very unique opportunity here. I'm here with the one and only, the renowned, I dare say famous, Gopher, mod master, explainer of all things mod-related, and master LPer, here to give us his words and his thoughts on gaming and modding and all sorts of things related to that. So, welcome very much indeed. It's a great honor and pleasure to have you in conversation with me.
Thank you very much. I almost don't recognize myself, though, when you describe me like that.
Your humility does not suit you.
Yeah, the word famous still, it's an odd word for me to hear.
I mean, within the ranks of Bethesda-related YouTubing, I dare say you are famous. I mean, you are certainly the best Bethesda game-related YouTuber out there.
Thank you.
Have the most instructive, helpful videos, the best LPs. I think within that niche, you're pretty famous, I think.
Okay.
Famous on Skype, on Nexus.
I mean, I guess I'm fairly well known in the modding community and, like you said, on Nexus and so on, but it's when you say things like famous, I think of things like, PewDiePie and big channels like this.
Well, you're much better than PewDiePie. But speaking of modding, I mean, as I mentioned before, you had kind of given a fairly comprehensive YouTube CV when you talked about, how you ascended to greatness starting from the depths of obscurity. It was just kind of a totally haphazard, unplanned, right?
Completely. I mean, a sheer accident. And I mean, I've got to tell you, when I first joined YouTube, if you looked up all the things you should do, I did none of them, and all the things you should not do, I did all of them. I mean, it was literally just a minor miracle that my channel is still around. I literally went about it the utterly, completely wrong way. I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean that's the best way to do it. I mean, because then if you actually end up being successful, then all the better. So your first, and I was mentioning this before, but your first, this mod is famous, Advanced Recon Fallout 3. It's a famous mod. You have to admit it's a famous mod.
I suppose, although I'll bet you any money it is not the mod I'm most known for. That'll probably be Immersive HUD. It's probably what I'm most known for. It's my guess.
Okay. I mean, to an outside observer, that seems a lot like a much simpler mod than the Advanced Recon. Though.
Oh, well, it is. I mean, it is, but I think the thing with the Immersive HUD is, for a start, it's on 3 games, and obviously it's on Skyrim as well, so a bigger audience. It's certainly my most endorsed mod, the Skyrim Immersive HUD, but I think it has a wider audience, a wider appeal. I mean, it's the Advanced Recon series are very much aimed at people who like high-tech, stealth-related stuff.
It's a fantastic mod. I still remember it. It's great.
I mean, I loved working on it.
Wait, speaking of which, so that's the question.
Go on.
How did you get into modding?
Oh,
I mean,
God.
This is someone who's just dabbled a teeny weeny bit into modding, and I just know how time consuming it is. And when I think of a mod, it's beyond my capacity to even dream of making, but such as Advanced Recon Gear, I mean, how did you start up with the idea? I mean, you have a programming background. Do you feel that being a professional programmer really helped? It must have helped. I mean,
I honestly, I don't think it's been a programmer that helped. I think having the sort of mind that programmers usually have helped. There's a few things. I mean, my programming background, when it came time to clean the mod up and release a new version, but that was years down the line. Being a programmer helped because, I could do the code in a nice, clean way. But honestly, like most people who get into modding, it's not about how much you know, it's about how much you're willing to learn, how much time you're willing to spend on trial and error, and just generally how obsessed you get with certain things. I mean, you ask how it started. That mod came into existence a couple of months after Fallout 3 came out. It was before any of the DLC, before any before I'd even really discovered the modding that much, I was playing a stealth character, and the only armor in the game that seemed to have any stealth relationship was the recon armor, which is the Brotherhood of Steel Under Armor. And I hated the look of it. I thought the kind of weak and it just generally annoyed me. And the initial version was just the recon armor with a stealth field if you were crouching and stationary. And this was before the Chinese stealth armor came out. So, I mean, it was such a basic mod. It really was. It didn't take long to make at all. And I think probably in the first, year of its existence, it got in the region of 1,000 downloads, which by modding standards is nothing now. It got almost no downloads. And I'd literally forgotten about it. I'd literally forgotten about it for about a year or so, and then I came back to it when I started a new play and was getting a little bit more interested in modding and just wanted to expand upon it. And it took years to get that mod to the state it's in now. It was one tiny little detail after another. I mean, the first thing that got added was night vision to the helmet, and that is probably the first thing that actually got the mod noticed, because although there were night vision mods out there, I did something slightly different. You had different steps. Press a button and it would get brighter, and so on. Because, of course, in the game, the night visions that you got were would either everything too bright or not bright enough. And that was it. And it was that little sort of ease of use that people responded to. But I mean, you've seen that mod itself has got so many different features that each one came into existence as either people suggested things or just new things annoyed me or new ideas came to me.
Yeah, I mean, I that's kind of why I asked the question. I mean, it's just massive, that mod.
Oh, yeah.
And the amount of work that you'd have to put into that, it must have been a labor of love, obviously.
Yes, well, like most things, a labor of love and a labor of hate. It was, I mean, I can remember many days of just literally 18-hour days where something was annoying me. I remember when I did the thermal night vision version of it, so many annoyances, so many little details, little things that you just don't think about. So, for example, when you turn the thermal vision off, how it fades. When people get killed, do they just immediately go blank blue? No, they fade. The body heat drains, and oh god, it was annoying. It really was. But it's a lot more advanced than, say, Predator Vision on Skyrim.
Yeah.
In Skyrim, of course, I can make excuses. They die. They suddenly, it's magic or something. It's you have to be you don't have to make it look as realistic with the advanced recon stuff to look realistic. So when the effects faded, it had to look like the machine was fading. It couldn't just remove the blue filter but leave all the heat signatures for a couple of seconds, which is how it was when I first made it. And little details like that can.
But I think that's something you're famous for, at least in your LPs. I mean, you take a great interest in realism.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see how that perspective, well, at least with regards to the LPs, was also present in making that mod. I mean, it's interesting that you draw. I was going to ask about that, but you draw the distinction. You say in Predator Vision, yeah, it's Skyrim, it's magic, right? It just fades. But in a sci-fi situation, you can't just say it's magic. There needs to be the fading element, as you put it.
Right. It's you get bogged down in the details because the details are where people's immersion gets broken. So exactly that. If you take the the thermal vision off, and you can still see signatures for about 2 seconds, the immersion's broken. Switch the device off. With Predator Vision, you could say, well, your eyes are just taking time to filter out the thermal imaging or something. Whereas You can't do that with the device. It's either showing you a third or it's not. So you have it fade, so visibility is very difficult, but you can't sort of come up with the idea that, yeah, your eyes are just seeing some residual images or something like that. It's a lot more demanding.
Yeah. And then that began essentially your career as a modder. I mean, that was it's still huge, but that's what kind of led you down the path. And then I
think the thing is with that mod, because, well, the thing is it's a mod that covers just about every aspect of modding, with two major exceptions. The first exception is it does involve dialogue, questing, and that sort of thing. And the other one is it didn't involve any weapons. But apart from that, it involved modelling for the armours, for the headgear and so on. It involved scripting effects, but it also involved heads-up displays. That's how I ended up learning all about the heads-up displays, purely because I wanted little icons that showed, what power setting you were at, what power levels you were draining, and so on. And so that mod just required that I learn so many different aspects. And because there were so many options, I had to learn how to do optional installers, which was another thing that when I first started doing those, very few people did. So when you went into at the time, it was the Fallout mod manager, you just hit activate and it would install everything. Whereas I made sure I had, you can install this and this and this, and you selected the options you wanted. And so I
remember that. I specifically remember that. Yeah.
And that gave me sort of a very broad. I wasn't an expert at any one thing. I was reasonably well versed at a wide variety of things, which meant that I could join in a lot of other little projects. So, for example, Cinematech, Dynavision, things like that.
But you also mentioned modeling. I mean, so you developed modeling experience making that mod as well.
Oh yeah, I'm at the headgear.
So you're a competent 3D modeler.
I wouldn't say competent at all. I can do the basics. I can do it, but it's the proverbial, I sweep a lot of the things under the carpet. So if you are a modeler and you open some of my model, you'd be horrified to see how I achieved some of the things. There was very, very messy underneath work. I mean, I tried to do it as clean as possible, but if you check it in comparison to some of the seriously good modelers, their models look good even on the inside. I mean, no one ever sees the inside in these games, but if you look at their model, they look good on the inside. Mine probably don't. They probably look, to a 3D modeler, fairly horrible.
Yeah. But I mean, having just kind of dabbled a little bit in it gives you, and first, an enormous respect for the modders. I mean, people on the Nexus are so quick to, well, for lack of a better word, judge, just make comments and say this isn't good and that's not. Yeah. And every little mod, even if it's a small mod, requires a lot of effort, and a big mod requires a ton of effort. And having dabbled a little bit myself, just realize, maybe myself at least, realize how much work it takes.
Oh yeah.
And it just gave me a new level of respect for the people who take the time to do these things.
Yeah, I mean, it's people wonder why mod makers get so up when people come along and trash them. I mean, people say, "Oh, we're just giving constructive criticism," but this is the internet, and what people call constructive criticism is often extremely unpleasant. I mean, people come along and go, "This mod is terrible. The textures are appalling. The models are disgusting. Yada yada yada."
Yeah, I did. I mean, I don't mean to, but I unfortunately, it'll probably never get done now but I tried to do to redo the Argonian male shouting voice, which was
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. There's actually a mod. I don't know if my partner deleted it, but anyway, the problem was at the time I didn't have a good mic, so there was a lot of kind of like static interference. It was okay, but you could hear it was not done with the best equipment. And then when I got the Rhodes thing, we tried to do it again. He's very, very busy with schoolwork, so right. I don't, because he's kind of a whiz with all the programming stuff. I think I did a good job recording, but I don't have the technical knowledge, so maybe he'll get it done, maybe not. But when we put that out there, oh God, it was just, I don't mind. I'm used to the internet. I didn't really mind. But considering how much work we put into it, it was, I think it was 100 and plus voice things I had to record, and he put in it, and people were just, just swearing up and down.
Oh yeah,
how bad it was.
People are brutal, even on good mods. I mean, if people can look at mods that are actually very, very good, but it doesn't meet their personal taste, and they will just brutalize that. I mean, this is one of the reasons Next is strict on its policy. I mean, I try to explain to people what you should do when you go onto any of these modding pages is act as if, instead of being on the internet, you had walked into a, say, crafting fair. Do you remember those old crafting fairs? On Sundays, and you go in and someone's made something, and they've spent obviously weeks building something. I don't know, maybe a wicker basket or something, but you hate wicker. That's fine, you hate it. Don't walk up to their table and go, wicker sucks, I hate wicker, that's terrible, that's ugly, because you're going to upset them. You don't do that in real life, so don't do it on the internet. And you go to someone's mod, and they've spent hundreds of hours messing around with this, and they love it, and you say, this sucks. You're upsetting someone, and it's not constructive. I mean, the thing is people say, oh, well, it's if you can't take constructive criticism. If you go along to a mod that you know you're going to hate and say, oh, I hate people like this shouldn't be made to people mods like this, you're not being constructive. You're being destructive. It's as simple as that.
So on the Nexus, I just realize how much effort and work is put into it. At best, I'll ask a question of when's the ETA for the next upgrade, but I mean, I never. Yeah, there's just too much because, and these are people. I mean, this is not. No one's getting paid for it either. Nope. I mean, it's just taking their time out of their free day for whatever reason they just want to do it, or it's a labor of love, and yeah, it's just so much work, and I wish more people would recognize that rather than just kind of thoughtlessly fling about comments about things they kind of know very little about just because it doesn't appeal to them or whatever.
The same is true in the videos, though. I mean, people seem no idea how long it takes to make these videos, as you know yourself.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And I mean, obviously you put even more. I mean, you're better at it, and you're more invested in it as far as refining and editing, and even that it's just a tremendous amount of work, and that people don't think about that. I mean, it's just unless you actually done it.
If you think about it, how could you? Because if you'd have told me 3 years ago how much effort it took to make one of these videos, I would have laughed. I had no idea. Same with the mods. I mean, Advanced Recon, I can tell you well over 1,000 hours on that mod, and people are probably going to be thinking, whoa. But it just, time just disappears. You can get 80% of something done in 10 hours, but the last 20% will take you 100 hours. And it's just that last 20% is the 20% that will break the mod. The difference between, it was a great idea, but it's buggy, it's sloppy, and I love this mod. It's the difference that last 20% of polish makes, and yet that's where all the time goes. That's where all those, frustrating moments, sleepless nights, trying to figure out this one minor detail that not everybody if you don't fit. People don't see that. And how could they?
Yeah, no, and I mean, when a year ago, I knew nothing about Sony Vegas, and I had to learn and teach myself. I mean, even making a 30-second kind of special effects trailer, it would take hours learning how to do that, and you never think about it when you look at the cool channels with their cool intros or whatever, the special effects, the fonts, the way they move, different. You don't think about it. You just say, oh, that's pretty cool. And
I still don't know how to do that. I still do not know how to do that. It's on my list of things to do.
Well, as a master of all things technical, I think it should be pretty easy for you. And with Sony Vegas as well. I mean, I remember trying to ask people, can you maybe help me with this? And you kind of just have to teach yourself all these shortcuts, splitting clips. You have to remember S, and it's just. It is learning by doing, but I understand that people can't fathom how much work it requires. But I wish YouTube had a kind of a training course. Before you're allowed to make comments and stuff, you have to at least try some basic video editing to get an idea, and then they would think, oh, it's just a lot of work. So maybe they would deal with people in a different way. And the same thing with Nexus. That would be, of course, a bit ideal, so I don't think that's gonna happen. But I mean, this is totally unrelated. But one thing, I mean, you legitimately seem shocked at your success. I mean, it doesn't. I just can't. I guess if you're a really good actor, you could. But you really seem surprised that you've come this far.
I mean, maybe this is just a generational thing, but I mean, obviously, I'm probably older than a lot of the people who do this type of thing. It seems to be people at college or just started.
Not quite as old as I am, but you're old.
So I'm well established in another career, and I have this view of what I do and who I am. The idea that I would be making videos about games and people would want to listen to them and watch them, it never occurred to me. This is not something that had ever come up on my radar. It never once. And as I said in that video, I released these tutorial videos, and it was literally an attempt to reduce the times I had to answer the same questions. There was no thought in, I'm going to get on YouTube. I didn't really even have a concept of what it meant to be a YouTuber, because I didn't spend a huge amount of time on YouTube. I mean, it's something that I was aware of. I'd watched the odd YouTube video, but I didn't YouTube as an alternative to television at that time, or a new. I mean, YouTube is huge if you think about it. It is now the place where I would say I get 90% of my exposure to the outside world. I mean, I watch the odd movie at home, but in general, YouTube clips seem to make up the majority of the things I watch or listen to. If I want to listen to some music now, if I want to listen to some Two Steps from Hell or something, I don't go to Spotify or just literally load up one of the YouTube videos and have it playing in my headphones. I didn't know.
It's kind of funny mentioning Spotify, is that I mean, it's essentially ancient history in a way, and yet it was only a couple of years ago. I mean, you're almost as old as I am, when it was that was this kind of this new trendy thing. I was living in the UK at the time when it was really kind of big. And now, I mean, you're right. Nobody, if you want, exactly, Two Steps from whatever, you just sample it on YouTube, just put it in YouTube.
Yeah, and so for someone like me, the idea of making a channel and having people watch you and watch your videos is, I wouldn't say alien, but it's so out there that I mean, my family still find it hilarious. They still, people listen to you. People watch you, and they're just stunned by it. They're like, they can't believe this. They think this is incredible, and so do I to some.
Well, I think there are a number. I mean, I've analyzed this. I've analyzed you. No, but I think there are a number of things that account for your success. First off, there's not a single YouTuber I'm aware of. I've analyzed the whole YouTube scene for a while, just because it interested me. I once had the ambition of trying to grow a channel. I think I've given up on that for obvious reasons. But
you shouldn't give up on that.
Well, this is about you. It's about your greatness, sir. No, but for one thing, nobody. I'm talking about the big people, the Jenna Marbles. Nobody sets out and says, Well, I guess the plan is to develop a career on YouTube, and I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and nobody does that. It's always haphazard. It's always just kind of random. Things fall into place, independent of the topic. Whether you're PewDiePie or Ray William Johnson or Gopher, nobody seems to have a master plan. I've never seen that happen. The other thing is, as I said, whether people have alluded to this. You have a very euphonous voice, a voice that's pleasant to listen to. It has a charm to it. Because it's obviously, as I mentioned in the video, it's kind of somewhat Mancunian, it's northern, so it's differentiated from what you would, southern estuary, the kind of standard British accent. But it's not so extreme that you wouldn't want to listen to. I lived in York for a while, and they're people you don't want to listen to them. Period. So that's a unique charm. You have a deep stentorian voice that's very attractive to listen to, and I think most importantly, what makes your channel unique is it's incredibly helpful. I've learned a lot. Even started with the mod manager, the no boss trick with Reprocker. The list is endless. I've favorited the video about your latest one about the memory thing,
right?
Because I have so many issues with, like I said, I have a shitty system. I have so many problems with crashing and stuff like that. So I will look at it later. I'm intent on doing that. But you just have a host. You're not just. Your LPs are great. I watch most of them, but it's not just. You have a host of videos that are helpful, instructive, and if you you seem like a genuinely nice guy. There's so much disingenuous fakery going on the YouTube. I personally can't stand it, and you really seem to not be a case of that. So if you combine all those elements, I think you end up with a winner, which is what you've become. That's my personal analysis. I might be off, but that's I suspect some of the reasons why people are attracted to your channel, and you really deserve all the success that you've had, and I hope you continue to grow. Because it's rare. People actually are helped. People are. Everyone's entertained by something, but people actually helped. I'm actually hoping that once I get through that video for the memory thing, I never have these horrible issues again. I might, but random crashing, FPS lag, you name it, I have it. But yeah, I think that's really the key that ultimately led to your growth, and whether it was intentional or not, it's fantastic that you found.
Well, I think
something that,
on that issue, I think it's just how the channel started. I think it's, the thing is I generally have a sort of what you would call it, an internet personality. Basically, everyone says, "Oh, you're very nice, you're very helpful." Yeah, I think everyone is at some level. I think here's the thing: everyone is a mixture of different things. We've all got moments where we can be, unpleasant, shall we say? But we have moments when we can be pleasant. And I think the thing is, for some reason, when I sit down on the internet, I have this urge to release my pleasant side. Makes sense? Maybe that's the different. People comment about I don't swear. That was just a conscious choice. And that was a conscious choice when I started my videos, because my videos weren't supposed to be entertaining. They were supposed to be tutorials, and I wanted to have a family-friendly and somewhat professional mannerism. And that has now become almost my thing. Oh, you don't swear. I swear. I do swear. I swear less now in real life than I did, because not swearing on the channel is rubbing off me in real life. But it's this type of thing where I made a conscious decision to try to be better than I am. And to treat this like, well, here's the thing. When you go to work, you are not the same person when you're at home with your friends.
The gods know, yes.
You don't, there's a host of things you'll say at home with your best friends that you would never dream of saying when you're at work, when you're with clients, customers, and so on. And I think I approached YouTube as if I was talking to customers and clients because of the tutorials. Now, it's different. Now, my subscribers are less like customers and clients and more like friends, But it doesn't matter. When I sit down on this channel, when I sit down to do the things I do, I just have that habit now. That's my way of being.
Yeah, and I find that fascinating because what I find liberating about YouTube or the internet, specifically YouTube, is the longest career, the longest type of job I did for countless years was being a teacher.
Okay.
And me standing in front of a classroom, and I mean, if people think teaching is just about teaching, well, it's really just edutainment. It's about presenting the right persona and making sure they have the feeling that they're learning, whether they're learning or not, and all this other stuff. And it's strenuous. And for me, the liberating thing about YouTube is just dropping that facade. I'm basically a nice person. I'm a bit monotone and flat in my voice. I know that, but I just, instead of that the kind of fakery that was required by the job and interacting with people, that I can just kind of essentially be myself. I think that's for me the liberating thing. But I think it's fascinating that you approach it from a sort of a job related perspective. Because for me it's just I don't have to pretend I'm in a fantastic mood just because I have all these students in front of me and stuff like that.
I think the thing is when I set out to do this and make these videos, I had an intention, and that was to try and make modding. I say this is the point of my channel is to make modding as accessible as possible to as many people as possible, and to do that you can't come in with an attitude of, well, you guys are all too stupid to learn this, blah blah blah. This as a teacher, when you approach people and you try to show them something. You have got to know it's okay to not know it for a start, and so when you come in with this attitude, when you come in with the idea that you are trying to help people, I think it automatically makes you behave a certain way. You don't, when I'm trying to show people how to do something, I just behave a certain way. I mean, it's not that I'm averse to conflict or I don't go off on rants at times, because I do. Everyone does. But whenever I make a video, I have an intention, and the intention is either to entertain or to educate, or to tell people about something that is happening. And the aim of that video tends to affect the way I behave. So, for example, you'll notice in my Let's Plays I'm a lot less pleasant. I mean, if you think about it, sometimes in my Let's Plays I'm downright unpleasant, albeit to imaginary pieces. And I play evil characters, and people have noticed I do have an ability to play quite unpleasant characters.
Steve.
And even Jack, in Fallout New Vegas, he's a bit unhinged at times, and it's even my good character, Phil, Will had a bit of a weakness for fire and explosions, and I find it very easy to jump into that to allow my unpleasant side to run wild. But
speaking of Steve, that was inspiring to me. I had a very memorable playthrough with a very similar character, an orc, kind of warlocky kind of guy, and I don't think I would have. I've always liked orcs, but that kind of setup, I don't think I would have come across the idea if you had not done the LP.
Yeah, it was. When I came up with the idea for the character, it was. I knew I wanted to play with followers, which I'd never done really.
I'm the same way. I usually avoid them, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's easier to play with followers when doing a Let's Play, though, because there's an inherent need to have conversations with people in Let's Plays, or at least in my Let's Plays there are, and you bounce those conversations off the followers. I think without the followers, there'd be less to talk about. There'd be less going on. But I'd never tried it, so I thought, well, I'm going to be trying new mods. That was the original intent of my Let's Plays, were simply to show people how I test mods out, what I do, and so they could see me testing them out. That's almost gone by the wayside now. A lot of times now to actually test them outside Let's Plays, because I know people get believably annoyed if I'm trying something insane in the Let's Play with a new mod. But that was the idea, and so I was trying to pick a load of mods that I have not been able to test. Things like what was it called, Fendrix Magic. There was a magic mod I used, the one that summoned Bill, the skeleton, and UFO, and a few other mods that. So I had to come up with a character that used followers, used magic, and so on. But I wanted to play something new race-wise, and I'd not played enough. It was one of the, it was this mishmash of desires, this mishmash of different things I wanted to do, goals that came up. That I ended up coming up with a character who was so unlikely, so improbable, purely because I had such wide and often conflicting goals for that one play. But in the end, it kind of worked, purely because the character was so ridiculous.
Well, I wouldn't say it's ridiculous. I mean, I like the character. I like the concept. I mean, ridiculous. Well, it seems so negative, but
well, I mean, ridiculous can be good. I mean, instead of being a warrior type, he was a mage, and even that was sort of unusual. But he wasn't a blow people to pieces mage. He spent most of his time healing his own followers. It was a very odd character for an orc, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, orcs. I play orcs too often myself, but yeah. On a totally unrelated note, regarding the whole YouTube crisis that we had been experiencing,
yes,
the last couple of months, I don't want to jinx us or anything, but this whole business that people are talking about video, delays on video, it just did we just miss something? It seems like business has continued as usual, and most of the problems that we were experiencing are gone. I could be imagining that. I've been making very, very many videos, but I mean, it just seemed there was it was almost like a viral attack. These companies claiming stuff and this and that, and then it just seemed to, I wouldn't say go away, but it doesn't seem to be. Nobody's making videos about it anymore. I guess, is the problem solved? I mean, what do you think?
My feeling on this is it's not solved. I think many channels were hit by this purely because the new content ID was so sensitive that it was flagging everything. I think YouTube have probably tweaked it a little. I also have a lot of the content claiming sites, and there are quite a few of them that are pretty famous now. I think they were caught off guard by this as well. I accused many of them of having nefarious intent, and I'm still not 100% sure that the intent of many of these companies was pure. I do get the feeling they were not quite ready for the volume of things that would hit and the backlash that it would get. So I have a feeling some of those companies have possibly removed some things from Content ID or learned some lessons.
Okay.
But my guess is there are still YouTubers out there who are getting hit by this. I don't know about delays, but I've not heard of people getting the review process hit. And that's what I was expecting.
Everyone was. Everyone was.
Managed. So, did you get managed status in the end? Or
I'm still, well, technically I should be at the end of this month. I think it's the end of this month I'll be finishing up with whatever my current people, and then I've gotten lots of offers, so I'll probably switch on to something else, I imagine. Although the main concern was the whole managed status, but incidentally, the things that I contested, which had just had nothing, most of the stuff that I got was just ridiculous. It was music that didn't even exist in the game. It was like a late 60s song that was claimed was in Skyrim, and I contested it, nothing happened. It's still, flagged or whatever.
Really?
It is. Contesting things is a waste of time usually because, I don't mean to bore the audience with the details. I'll try to be brief, but in this particular case, it was one of my first LPs. I think the song was 8 Miles High by a band called The Birds or something. I don't know. Claims it's in Skyrim. It's not. It has nothing to do with Skyrim. You go to the contest option. You look at the options. That's not one of the options.
No.
It's not one of the options. Say this song has nothing whatsoever to do with the game.
Yeah.
It's not there. That's not one of the options. So what do you choose? You have to choose something kind of related to it. So I think that's probably why. Well, and those were most of mine, actually. Yeah.
The Onion usually uses the fair use one, or I own the content. I own the copyright, or this person.
I think
I
chose the fair use for that.
Right.
I've contested 2 or 3 times. It was just I just gave up eventually. It's a pretty broken system, and it's not great. The thing is, as big as YouTube is now, as far as being an efficient system where was actually good for both the audience and video makers, I'd say 2009, 2010 it had its heyday. It's kind of been going downhill since, and yeah, I just because they tend to implement things without any announcement, right? Do you remember? I remember the videos about the comment section being changed and all that.
That still horrifies me.
Gopher, I woke up one day, I wanted to check my inbox. I don't get lots of messages, but I had to YouTube and Google the 2014 February or whatever, or it was January or whatever, how to check your inbox video. There was a video for this because I didn't know you have to go to community and dashboard. I mean...
And to be honest with you, once you look at the video, you get around it, the system just is... It's built for people getting 20 messages a day. It's almost as if they tested this out on a bunch of people who were already using Google Plus, and said, "Hey, how does this work when integrated with YouTube?" And these people who liked Google Plus said, "Yeah, it's fine." They did not test this with people who like mid-sized channels. Maybe they tested it with large channels where it literally is impossible to read comments. I mean, I'm seeing even with the old system, could not have checked.
Well, you know what my suspicion is that guys like PewDiePie and the like, they don't even bother to respond to comments. They're just they can justify they have too many subs. You know, they can't. So it didn't really matter for them as long as
that's what I'm saying. So I mean, forget replying. To even read the number of comments he's got would take him. He'd need to hire staff.
Yeah, which is
for me. I mean, my channel alone, that it would take me about an hour a day to read all of the comments, and I can read fast, and it was using the old system, which was set up in a way that could literally every comment very, very quickly in one place, and then decide which ones you were going to answer. But I mean, for me, the entire Google Plus integration was an epic failure. I think the comments are, I wouldn't say they're useless. They're still useful, but only on new videos. I try to check my videos. I try to interact with people on my new videos. But if people are posting on videos that are 2 years old or something, there's almost no chance I'll ever see the comment. Whereas it used to be one of the things that people would post a comment on a video from a year and a half ago. And if it was a comment I wanted to reply to, I'd reply. And people were like, "Wow, you still answer comments on videos this old." Well, why not? For me, it was just as easy answering comments on the videos as it was the new ones with the old system. New system, maybe, I've got over 1,000 public videos now, and I probably check comments on 3 to 4 of them a day. And that's not good, is it?
No, but I mean, if anything, it's a testament to how much value assigned to it. Once again, I think the good thing about your channel is I think you really do care, and that's just not. I mean, you actually read the comments, and most people don't. Let's be honest. I mean, most people, they like comments, I guess, but it's more for the sake of just growth. It's like comments. Okay, this means more growth. Whereas you actually take the time and read the comments,
Well, for me, I tried to explain this to some people who were fans of Google Plus, and I was trying to explain to them that the comment section under the video was a conversation, and it was a conversation about that video usually. And now the comments underneath the video are almost a competition. They're just
I can't figure it out.
They're just a lot of comments, and the ones that get the most replies wander to the top, and so it's more like a glorified Twitter sort of thing. So you get one comment and maybe 3 or 4 replies to it, and you can read the top comments, or you can go for newest first, but there doesn't seem to be any structure. And of course, if someone replies to an old comment, that doesn't mean those comments move up. I don't get a sense of a conversation. I just get a sense of lots of messages sent to me. And to me, that just seemed to miss the whole point of the YouTube comments section. And honestly, I think YouTube made a huge mistake with that. And only time will tell how that's going to affect things. I mean, it's not affected my views. It's not affected on my subscription rate and so on. There's nothing bad has happened other than I feel a little less connected to the audience. And I'm guessing they probably feel a little less connected. And I think that's bad.
Yeah, no, I know YouTubers have just kind of given up on even bothering reading comments. It's just keeping track of them. It's too much effort.
And you see, the funny thing is you see them trying, you see them coming out with these new ideas, and I keep responding on the videos they post, these YouTube videos. Oh, look at our new comment moderation tool. And I'm like, it's a step in the right direction, but here's the thing, inbox. It's the simplest thing on the planet. Give us the inbox. It works.
It wasn't broken. Why did they need to fix it?
I mean, you had a functioning system. You had a system that works. Add new features. People say, oh, you can add links now. Great. Well, it's a mixed bag. Or, people come with they added this and they added that. I'm not a problem with the things they added. It's the things they took away. And it seems like they're not getting the message. They roll out the thing that just stuns me still is the fact that there is no option for me to turn off the spam filter. Because the spam filter is broken as hell. Whenever I go to any video and check all the comments flagged as spam, none of them, or maybe 1 in 200 or something, are spam. Really, but almost none. So it's gotten to the point now where I just go to the video, I hit select all and unspam them all, and I give a quick look just in case there's one that's really obvious. Click here to buy Viagra or something. And then I just release them all. Can I have an option that just turns that off, please? Because your spam filter it's failing horribly, but they don't seem to want to know. And I
Google Plus. Yeah, that's the reason they need people to be part of Google Plus. So it's not going to change.
What does that say about Google Plus, though?
Well, it's not very good. It's not as good as Failbook, but I mean,
yeah. I'm not on either. Well, I do actually have a Facebook channel, but I'm just terrible at this. I've said this before on this type of thing. A bit of a noob. I've been a developer in the internet world for a long time.
So you're an HTML expert?
No. Actually, I tend to do back end stuff. Okay. So, more like interaction with the database, the business layers, this type of thing. We usually have a designer or what we call front-end experts who do the HTML, the CSS, that type of thing. And but at the same time, you have to be fairly conversant with basic design principles. But I'm so behind on the Facebook, all of the social medias. I started using Twitter a year or so ago, and I still don't use that correctly, apparently. I tend to announce my videos, and that's usually it. Apparently, I'm supposed to tell everyone what I've had breakfast or something. But, because some of my family, my younger siblings and one of my elder children, the amount of time they spend on social media is...
I'm not very big on it myself, but I'm pushing 40, so it's not really
You're pushing 40.
I am, yeah.
I'm older than you.
Are you really?
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought you were in your early 30s.
Nope. I am 44 years of age and will be 45 this year in summertime.
Oh,
so yes.
Okay. Well, you are in fact
an old folk.
I bow to your elderly greatness.
To my age and wisdom. Yeah. No,
okay.
I'm. It's for me. this is switching to YouTube. This at this point is probably a little strange and unusual. So,
and speaking of which, I want to ask two more sets of questions. And as you're mentioning this, what would you say, apart from the strange and unusual, which you've explained, is the appeal of being a professional YouTuber versus being a professional programmer? I mean, you obviously enjoy it a lot, but talk about that a little bit more. I mean, what is the appeal?
Oh, there's too many things. There are too many things that appeal. So, like, I
summarize.
I enjoy the mods. I enjoy making mods. I enjoy modding the game, and I enjoy playing games. Obviously, I mean, you have to enjoy them to do this.
Yeah.
I think in life, I am naturally, I am a natural entertainer. That sounds a little conceited, but I do tend to. When I talk, I do tend to see the dark but funny side of things, and I do tend to have the ability to make people laugh, and I do enjoy doing that. And much like yourself, I was a teacher. That is probably not a huge surprise to a lot of people, but I was actually a school teacher long ago in my early adulthood. I taught mathematics and computers. And I find that very rewarding, teaching people to do things, especially, when you're teaching something like maths, and let's face it, kids hate maths, and to get them engaged.
Not all of them.
Well, not all of them, but, I mean, it's one of the more hostile subjects to teach, but I find that side of thing rewarding. So when I do my tutorial videos and people send me messages saying, "Oh, thanks for this. I really would never have done this without you." You can't help but feel good. You just cannot help but feel good, and that is a great feeling. Whereas in my job as a programmer, and I've been a programmer now for 15 years. Well, I was. You get almost no feedback from the people who use the product. It's usually the customer or your project lead, and they're just. I have to say, the feedback you get from people on YouTube is addictive. I mean, it really is. When people interact with you and give you, and say good things, it is very addictive. I mean, some people focus on the negative comments they get. I tend to find those very, very easy to dismiss. For me, the few bad comments I get are generally very easy to dismiss for me. I don't particularly take them personally because I don't particularly, because these people don't know, or people come along and say, "Oh, you're the most boring person on the planet, please kill yourself." And I'm like, okay, fine, block, bye-bye. I don't, to me, giving these people any time is just pointless. The only people, sometimes people come along and say, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did that badly. That was really stupid." I'll engage with them because they're at least critiquing something I've done. But in general, the feedback I get is very positive. And it's not about the Let's Plays, it's more the tutorials. And people just, and it's a nice feeling when so many people say, "Well, I would never have installed SKSE without you because it terrified me," and it just you just cannot explain how good it feels. It's a reward in itself. So
I can relate. I mean, for me, that's why I'm kind of temporarily giving up. I mean, the time I enjoyed making videos the most was, you probably noticed, I have a lot of Mass Effect 3 videos, and I used to make guides. I was kind of a semi-well famous, very well-known guide maker for builds and the multiplayer, and that's what I enjoyed, when people would give me the feedback and say, "And this build really helped me to, to kick ass," or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's what I really enjoyed the most. I can definitely relate to that, because that was a kind of form of teaching. It was just a kind of teaching where I didn't have to. Well, it was just different than standing in front of a classroom.
Right.
But yeah, it's. I think it's a better form of teaching in that sense.
I think, well, here's the thing. When you're teaching in front of a classroom, you've got a syllabus, you've got, and you're also live. It's a completely different thing when you can take your time, edit out your mistakes, and you don't, in a classroom, the feedback you get is from those 30 kids or 30 adults or whoever you're teaching, and it's...
I've taught both.
Yeah, and it's there for maybe a minute and a half. You put a video up showing people how to, donate with the engineer class or something, and you keep getting feedback. It's constant. It's non-stop. People, log on and go, oh, brilliant. This is great. This really helped me. And you think, definitely. And it's, who wouldn't like that? Who doesn't like that? Who does not like that feeling of having been useful, to be needed? It's to compare this to my old job. It really is the apples and oranges. In fact, not even that. It's apples and sand. The two things are so different. I love doing these videos. I just really do.
Okay. Final set of questions then.
Go on.
Gaming in general.
Go.
Say in the next 2 years. I mean, I'm going to assume that they're going to come out. What are some titles that you're not just that you're beyond chuffed about, that you're just, I cannot wait to get my hands on them? It's probably as opposed to, that could be interesting.
Well,
just name a couple.
Well, Fallout 4, obviously. I mean, there's no way around that. That's going to be huge for me, I think. That is the next Fallout game. I think is just, no question. I don't even think I need to explain why.
Well, regarding Fallout 4, what are your predictions? I mean, do you think? I mean, there was obviously a huge graphical improvement from going from Oblivion to Skyrim, right?
Yeah.
Do you think we're gonna see a similar improvement going from 3 or Vegas to Fallout 4?
Yeah, I really do. I think they're going to use the same engine. It's going to look nicer. The animations are going to be better, because that's one of the things when you look at Skyrim compared to Oblivion. Just look at the animations, little things like that.
Yeah.
The faces are going to be nicer. I mean, I got to say, Skyrim is the first Bethesda game that, unmodded, the human faces looked semi-reasonable. Now, to be honest, Morrowind, Oblivion, Fallout, the human beings looked kind of odd.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to look nice. I think the user interface is probably going to be similar to... I'm guessing it's going to be a similar style to the Fallout ones, but it's probably going to use the same engine as the Skyrim one, which is a mixed blessing. And what I'm hoping is the experience we have all learned from modding Skyrim is going to go across into Fallout 4. So my prediction is things will come out a lot quicker. The script extender for Fallout 4 should be out faster than it was for Skyrim, assuming the SKSE team are still, able to put in the time, which is always a problem, because those guys are, some of them at college, some of them working, and they're all ridiculously busy. But the modding, I mean, a lot of the stuff we did in the early days of Skyrim was fundamentally flawed, because we were using the same techniques and mentality that we used for Fallout, Oblivion, Fallout New Vegas, and it wasn't the same engine, especially the scripting engine. Well, we've learned a lot of lessons now, and so, when Fallout 4 comes out, assuming it's using the same engine, the same scripting engine, I think we're going to see the mods really come out quickly. They're going to be polished fairly early on. I mean, for example, I'm hoping the Sky UI of Fallout 4 will be out reasonably quickly, along with the MCM, the menu system for mods. So generally, I think the modding scene is going to be up and running. It'll be like, I don't know if you were around for the Fallout New Vegas rollout, but when Fallout New Vegas came out, the mods for Fallout New Vegas were like day one, great mods, just rolling out, and they would just get better and better.
I remember, I did a couple of playthroughs,
The script extender for Fallout New Vegas was out so much faster than the one for Fallout 3. The mod manager for Fallout New Vegas was out within weeks, whereas Fallout 3, it'd been a year, I think, before we had a mod manager, and it just, you can see the maturity in those mods. To
the best of your knowledge, what's the ETA on Fallout 4?
No idea. And I mean that absolutely zero idea. I'm hoping this year, you keep seeing these hints here and there. I'm hoping this year, but I wouldn't expect to see it before winter time. But you never know, because that's the thing with Bethesda, isn't it? They are notorious for just, say, 6 months before announcing it. No real warning.
You seem to be, based on you seem to be more of a post-apocalyptic kind of guy than a fantasy guy. Would you say that's accurate?
No, I would say I was equal amounts. I would say the post-apocalyptic games have grown on me more in recent years, but really, probably the games I've played up till now have been slightly more wading on the fantasy side than anything else, actually. I think the thing is Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, because I made so many mods and I spent such a long time immersed in that genre, that I do now play more of those. Possibly now, yeah, probably. I would have to say, if Fallout 4 comes out, it will probably dominate a lot of my time. Play, modding, videos, and everything. That's what I'm looking for. But other apocalyptic games, probably, actually. I've got Wasteland 2 that I have, I've been looking forward to play. Don't know if it's going to be any good, but, Metro last one.
Pretty pricey for... Yeah, I've seen it on Steam. So
I basically pre-ordered. Got the alpha. Okay. Got the alpha. I'm going to try it out. I don't know. I'd say at the moment I probably favour the post-apocalyptic ones and the sci-fi ones slightly more, but that's more of a recent thing.
Okay, and finally, you haven't made too much commentary on this, but BioWare and BioWare games. I know you've mentioned this. I've seen you write. You've played BioWare games.
Yeah, lots of them.
Lots of them, right? So, are you? We don't need to. There isn't enough discussion about Mass Effect 3 and endings and stuff like that. But are you looking forward to any BioWare titles? What are your thoughts on the next Dragon Age and
I only ever played Dragon Age Origins. Was it the first one?
Thank the gods for that. Yes.
Right.
You didn't want to play Dragon Age 2.
Right.
You really didn't.
I loved Origins. Absolutely adored it. I played it maybe 6 times through.
Fantastic game.
Yeah. What else has BioWare made apart from Mass Effect? I'll deal with that in a minute. Did they?
Well, the Star Wars stuff.
Oh, Knights of the Old Republic. Was that BioWare? Yeah. Knights of the Old Republic 1, possibly one of the best games ever made. Absolutely brilliant. Played that several times through. I played Knights of the Old Republic 2, but I only got through it once, I think, or maybe twice. It didn't seem to be. It was a typical sequel in that, the old style sequels where they were just never as good as the original game, and the story didn't gel as well. But then, of course, there's Mass Effect, and quite simply, again, along with Knights of the Old Republic, possibly one of the best game series I've ever played, and individually some of the best games. Mass Effect, each game had its strengths, each game had downsides. And I'm not one of these people who, went to Mass Effect 2 and had a go at it because it was, people accused it of being dumbed down because they got rid of the equipment and all that type of thing. And they simplified the skills. I actually thought that many of the ways they streamlined Mass Effect 2 were actually better. I did find Mass Effect 2 easier to play multiple playthroughs because I thought the classes were much more diverse than in Mass Effect 1. I found, the playthrough as a Vanguard to be just completely different to the playthrough of Engineer.
Obviously.
Whereas in Mass...
Because of charge.
Well, yeah, but all of the classes I found pretty much different, or at least some of them. The Soldier and the Engineer were fairly generic, but, the Engineer was a very powerful class to play, actually. But in Mass Effect 1, I did feel they were a little more It was a little harder to sort of judge between them. I mean, you had the biotics and that type of thing, but the things like the charge and the shield for the sentinel, the time dilation for the sniper, they really did. And the stealth for the what was it called, infiltrator, things like that. They just really did differentiate each playthrough so much that Mass Effect 2 is the one I played 7 times through.
Me too. And then Mass Effect 3, of course. I mean, there's been a lot of commentary on that. I didn't just have issues with the ending, so I'm probably the wrong person to talk about it. I was not a fan of the single player. But multiplayer was great, but that's another issue.
Mass Effect 3 for me, I thought was... the general story I thought was really good. It was very emotional. It really... I loved the way it started. I mean, when Earth fell, I thought it was immensely powerful. I still enjoyed the classes, although I really did feel like they'd overpowered the Vanguard. And the Vanguard in Mass Effect 2, when you played that on Insanity, you felt like you'd achieved something. Vanguard on Insanity.
Couldn't make mistakes.
Yeah, but once you got good at Vanguard, it was possibly one of the more powerful classes to play. You had to get good, you had to get very good, you had to have brilliant situational awareness. And I found it the most rewarding class. Mass Effect 3, it actually seemed to be too powerful and too easy.
Well, or my theory is that, I mean, Insanity was a reasonable challenge on Mass Effect 2. I felt like Insanity on Mass Effect 3 became, I don't know, Novice or whatever they called it. It was easier.
Yeah, but you went on Insanity on Mass Effect 2 and absolutely everything had shields, armor and health and
and you really couldn't afford to make mistakes because 1 or 2 shots and you die. Regardless of the class, I felt Mass Effect 3 Insanity was just kind of I'm invulnerable.
There were still plenty of classes that had no shields. There were plenty of the enemies that had, say, just shields. Whereas, in Mass Effect 2, you had to take squad members to take down shields, biotics, and armor. You needed...
What was the mission, right? You have Geth, well, take Miranda, she has overload, and maybe... So, yeah, exactly. There was a sense behind it.
Yeah. But for Mass Effect 3... I love the way it sort of reintroduced some of the old characters. You got the heartstrings. I liked that you could actually play with some of the old characters from the first one, and that not all of them made it. I found it a very powerful sort of story. The ending, I was not even remotely surprised by. I did think it was feeble. I thought it was... To me, it reminds me of things like Lost or Battlestar Galactica, the TV series, where it's great all the way through and they get to the end and they go, I don't know how to end this. Okay, let's put an angel in there or something, And that's what happens, isn't it? I mean, Battlestar Galactica. No, it was angels all along. What? Lost. No, they're actually dead and in the afterlife. I mean, it kind of felt like this. You kind of get to the end and it's like... the Reapers really weren't that terrifying after that. They were just...
No.
They took some of the...
Well, for me, I mean, this is a not a popular opinion. I think the revealing the Reapers in greater depth, even in Mass Effect 2, was a kind of took away from them. I mean, if they had stayed this mysterious force out in dark space where you really just caught glimpses of them, it might have been a lot more terrifying than, here they are, they're right in front of us, tentacles are dangling in front of our eyes, and now it just turns out that, the Deus Ex, the Godchild is, it's been talked about, to death, but it's, I hope that they learn from it. Like I said, you were lucky not to play Dragon Age 2. I mean, you know how good Dragon Age Origins was. I've had maybe 10 playthroughs of Dragon Age Origins. I lent my voice to several mods there back then. And then I thought, okay, Dragon Age 2, it's inevitable. You get so psyched about it because the first one was so good. And then...
It was bad, was it? I mean, I heard it was bad.
The words don't describe how bad it was compared to the first one. I can't say a single good thing about it.
Right, okay.
The characters look less realistic. There was kind of a sticky, cartoonish feeling to them. They look like kind of stick figures almost.
Oh, God.
The plot was bad. You took away the races, which made it interesting, the different origins and starts.
Really? Oh God.
Oh yes. Well, Dragon Age 2, you're confined to play. I mean, it was inevitable that they were gonna. You wanted a voice character, right? That was the legacy of Mass Effect, and
right.
So that was obviously a resource allocation question. It would have been expensive. Although I've heard rumors for the next Dragon Age that, I mean, first you can play all the races as well as Kunari, and they're all going to have unique voices supposedly. Well, we'll see. But yeah, there was that, and then Dragon Age 2, the enemies, weird people complained that they would drop out of the sky, out of nowhere, out of the ceiling, out of walls. Reused environmental assets, and just kind of it just was extremely mediocre, and I'm being generous. So no, you really saved yourself. I think I had 1.5 playthroughs, maybe compared to 10. That's pretty bad. So a lot is riding on Dragon Age 3. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm at the same time skeptical. So I guess we'll see the same thing with Mass Effect 3. Although I know you didn't play multiplayer, but thank the gods, multiplayer was a huge success, far more successful than single player. So I think they're going to build on that, and I hope they do a good job.
Multiplayer for
Mass Effect.
Yeah, no. 3. For me, I'm still multiplayer is. I'm still playing Left 4 Dead 2.
Oh right, no multiplayer Mass Effect. Well, here's what they did with that. It's kind of dead on PC at least now, but. So they decided this novel idea. Everyone was skeptical, including myself, because we were all looking for a single player. Oh, don't turn Mass Effect. And everyone was just entranced by it. It was a total experiment, minimal resource support, and it was just really, really good. Admittedly, it was just kind of, kill the enemy. It wasn't very complex, and over time that became a bit boring, but I think they're going to build on that in the future, and I think the next Mass Effect title is going to have a really fantastic multiplayer. I made guides for it, and I loved doing it for over a year because it was just so, it was just a really entertaining game. You finally got to play the races. You got to be a Krogan, a Solarian.
I should have, but it was more a matter of time for me. It never really.
Well, fear not, Gopher, because there's good data out there that tell us that people really want that racial experience. For the single player, we're going to have multiple racial options. So basically, this is an interpretation of what BioWare has been doing, but they ask people, if you could play different races in the single player and blah, 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 which ones would you, if you had to get rid of some, because once again, resource allocation, voices, which ones would you get rid of? As far as the races. And so it's almost definite that the next Mass Effect 3 is going to, whatever they call it, is going to have the option to play different, at least 3 or 4 different races as opposed to just a human. It's not going to be about Shepard. That's confirmed as well. And I'm pretty sure there'll be a multiplayer I'm hoping that it's going to be a lot better because multiplayer 3 Mass Effect was a huge success, and they invested so few resources in it. I just imagine if they actually put a lot of effort into it, it could be, potentially a lot better.
I'm wondering if they'll just focus on that, and the first person, the single player, will be a bit of a disappointment.
That's the question, isn't it?
For me, I'm very nervous about another Mass Effect game. I'm not even totally sure it's a good idea. As I said, I think they had one of the best series ever, and they ended it. It's not the worst ending I've ever seen, but it was.
Are you talking about the makeover or pre-makeover?
Both. It wasn't even that good after that. I mean, it was a bit. It felt meh. It felt like they'd just come up with it because they couldn't think of anything else. And
I think they just rushed it. If they'd given themselves more time to think out things properly, but
to be honest with you, it felt too much like the sort of Deus Ex ending, where you pick one of 3 endings and then that decides the cut scene. Whereas, I mean, the first game and the second game, to some degree, you picked choices you didn't feel like, oh, this is going to decide the cutscene. You decide, do you save the council or not? It felt.
You actually thought it mattered too, and then it turns out it doesn't matter in Mass Effect 3.
But the thing is, you just felt like you were making another decision. Whereas when you get to that point in Mass Effect 3, you literally, they might as well have brought down a big screen with a flag on it saying, click here to see this cutscene, click here to see this cutscene, and it was okay. I mean, it really annoyed me. It really upset me. It really just made me feel like I wasn't playing the game anymore. I was just ending it for the sake of ending it.
Nobody liked it. And the thing is, there were so many pivotal moments. Mass Effect 2, like I said, I don't know how many playthroughs I had. A dozen maybe. For example, keep the base, destroy the base. You left that game thinking, this is a serious decision. This is the decision.
Yeah.
This is going to make. If you play Mass Effect 3, if you recall, it didn't really make a difference.
No.
Not a whole difference. It was almost irrelevant. Yeah. And yet you leave the game, moving away from the base exploding, whether it's just the organic life or the physical base, and Mass Effect 2 thinking this was a monumental decision, which turns out to be, well, almost irrelevant in the next.
Well, I didn't like the way they started Mass Effect 3, where you've given yourself into the Alliance, and you're no longer part of what were they called? The people you were working for.
Spectres.
Yeah, Spectres.
Or Cerberus.
Cerberus. And it was like, on one of my playthroughs, I would have given myself up, but one of the playthroughs I did was an evil playthrough. I wasn't going to go back to the Alliance. What? Why am I now an enemy of Cerberus? And it felt like, like you said, it didn't matter how I ended the first one. I was basically pushed into this, whereas in the second one, you felt like you started where you would have started. I just really did feel like there was a jump, too big a jump between the end of Mass Effect 2
I agree, and I think you're spot on. I mean, the 1 and 2 were just fantastic. 3, for me, I thought it was just catastrophically bad. But and when you go from such an amazing series that just ends on such a bad note, you really do lose faith. I mean, my faith is in the multiplayer, which I enjoyed so much. So I'm just like, actually, between you and me, if single player sucks, I don't care as long as I know that sounds cynical, but if multiplayer is good, I loved multiplayer more than I like. So that's fine. I'll have fun. I'll make guides, and hopefully people like watching them and profit from them, whatever. So I have faith, but not in single player.
Yeah.
I think it's. Because it's like you said, it was such a good series, and when you end on that note with all the problems going towards the end in Mass Effect 3, the next title, you just think, how are they going to remedy that? How are they going to?
I think the thing is I think the problem was in the first one introduced the Reapers, and they probably had a vague idea of where they were going. Then they made number 2. And I think they should have known how 3 was going to end before they started making 2. And I just get the feeling they didn't, that they kind of went into Mass Effect 2, made it, and started making Mass Effect 3 and just said, all right, how are we going to end this? Because that's how it felt. It felt like there wasn't a plan between, across the board. Now, I can forgive you when you make Mass Effect 1 because there was no guarantee they were going to make a Mass Effect 2. I mean, Mass Effect 1 ended, and if it had been the last game, it would have still been a brilliant game. It still would have ended, all right, the Reapers were still out there, but humanity was now, doing well, and the Reapers threat had been thrown off now, and it was a good place. When they went to number 2, and they're obviously going to go for the trilogy, I think they had a responsibility to plan ahead because it was a continuing story. But this happens in TV series all the time, where they just suddenly realize they've got to end it and then come up with the worst thing ever. For me, this is where games like Fallout tend to be stronger, because each time you're starting a whole new character, same world, maybe connected lore, but there's no need.
It's the sandbox element as well, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. But even without that, each time the story's a fresh story.
Yeah.
It's there's something about that means they can literally, the Courier story I was never particularly in love with compared to, say, the Vault Dweller story. But at the same time, it doesn't affect any of the other stories either. So, if you say, well, the courier story wasn't quite as good, but it in no way affects the Vault Dweller from Fallout 1's story or the Chosen One from Fallout 2's story. They're all isolated, so even if one has some minor failings, it does not have a ripple effect on the other games, whereas Mass Effect 3's weaknesses, unfortunately, ripple back. And
yeah, and especially when you consider going forward for the single-player campaign that they're going to have to choose because it ended the way it ended, even with the makeover, they're going to have to choose one ending to be the quote-unquote canonical ending, I imagine, at least, unless they do some kind of...
Do you not think they'll make Mass Effect 4 start earlier than Mass Effect 1, or...
No, I've been following this very closely.
Okay.
This has been settled. They asked... First off, they were kind enough to ask the fans, what do you want? Do you want a sequel or prequel? I would have loved a prequel, preferably during the height of the Prothean Empire. Something political, intrigue. It doesn't have to be, epic. It's interesting. They didn't do that, though. Most people voted for a sequel. So it's going to take place after the events. It seems inevitable now. And which I think is they're setting themselves up. They could have saved themselves a lot by making imagine that, a Mass Effect taking place during the height of the Prothean Empire. Okay, well, no, what I wanted to ask you is there's a trend these days with Kickstarter. There are tons of Kickstarter projects, right?
Yep.
First off, why do you think there's this trend for Kickstarter projects, and what Kickstarter titles are you interested in?
I think the trend for Kickstarter is basically in general a good thing. And I think it's because people want to make certain games without having to go through publishers. So, because, what's that game called? I made a video about it the other day. Kingdom Come Deliverance. They put it up to Kickstarter because they couldn't get the financial backers, because the backers did not think it would be a game that appeals to people, because it didn't have dragons and it didn't have magic. So they put it up as a Kickstarter and asked for, I think it was $500,000, I think it was £300,000 or something. And instead they got like twice as much as that, maybe even more, and the Kickstarter is still going on, which I think shows that the backers were wrong. And I think that's a great thing. There is also, unfortunately, a tendency for, people to be able to just come up with any crazy idea, put a Kickstarter up for it, put some screenshots up, and hope they make money. How will this affect the ones that are good? I honestly don't know. Not totally sure. You still there?
Yeah, I'm listening.
What was the second part of that question? The second part of the question was...
Yeah, the titles that you might be looking forward to.
Okay, well, then there you go. Kingdom Come Deliverance. I don't know if you've seen that one. It's a medieval RPG.
Yep. Yeah, you mentioned, I watched your video on that. Yep.
So things like that I'm looking forward to. I've seen quite a few that look good. The problem is, a lot of them don't get the funding. There was one that was started by a bunch of ex-modders, Druid Gameworks, and it looks really interesting, but they just keep failing to get the funding. So people just don't seem as interested in it as I thought they would be, because it looks like a really nice idea, and I love the fact that it's a bunch of mod makers who used to frequent Nexus and other modding sites.
Yeah, for myself, Project Eternity, the guys who made Icewind Dale and Baldur's Gate.
Right,
and
yes,
that's the one I'm really chuffed about myself, which should be coming out either in the summer or autumn, I think. So
yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more games made this way because I think it's actually easier to get funding. It really does. If you've got the right idea and you've got far enough, of course you need. And the problem is you do need to have got to a certain point where you can present something to the Kickstarter people, the people viewing it. And for example, Kingdom Come Deliverance did exactly that. The footage they had in game was
it's really good.
Yeah, and it struck a chord the way they presented it. The fact that it's slightly different, and I think we'll see a lot more of this. But again, you still need some initial outlay, I think. Either that or the people themselves need to work for free for a year or so. So, but I mean, this could be the way it's done in general from now on. Big gaming companies.
Do you think it's also because some people want to circumvent having to make things for consoles as well? Most Kickstarters seem to be, it's all PC. I mean, 90% of it's all PC.
I hadn't thought of that, but I think, isn't the Kingdom Come Deliverance going to be multi-platform?
That might be, but I know that Black Isle, not Black Isle, God, they're deceased. Black Isle, Obsidian,
yeah.
Yes, Obsidian have gone on record saying we wanted to make a classic RPG PC only game, and there are a couple other companies that have made similar statements.
Okay.
I think that's part of it as well. We all know that lots of games are console ports,
yeah,
and that you potentially lose a lot of possibilities because they're console ports, and they have console exclusives. Why not have PC exclusives? You're never going to get that in the mainstream market. So I think Kickstarter is a good way of doing that if people want to do that.
Possibly one reason for doing it. I mean, I don't object to that. Obviously, I really don't play any console games. I'm actually thinking of buying a PlayStation 3.
Really?
Yes, because I would like to play Last of Us. Everybody is telling me it is utterly superb. But that would be about the only reason. Playing games without a mouse, just the entire concept is a strange one for me.
I can't get it either. I can't imagine you playing on the console either. But yeah, it would be fair enough.
Last of Us apparently is such a good game. I would.
I hear.
I would love.
But let's be honest here. It's not as if they could not have made it for the PC. I mean, it's just this is just marketing.
Yeah.
PlayStation exclusive kind of thing.
Absolutely, and I would definitely not recommend people go out and buy consoles just to play one game. Partly because it rewards the people who do that. But like many things, I wouldn't recommend everyone do it. But I'm still seriously thinking of doing it myself because I really do want to play that game, which probably makes me a terrible person.
Well, if you can afford it, go for it. I just think it's expensive to get a console just so I can play a game. But
well, I've actually had an offer from someone to just send me a PlayStation 3 that they don't use anymore. So
I see.
Probably a little cheaper for me.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of consoles, but
Well,
I realize that's the market. So
I find the idea of sitting on my sofa playing games to be a bit strange, but it's the playing without a mouse. I mean, I don't know how people do first-person shooter games with a controller. I just do not know how you do it. It's just one of the things I just can't quite fathom. I do actually have a controller for my PC, and I bought it so that because people said to me, "Oh, you should use it when doing showcase videos because the movement is a lot smoother than your mouse," and it kind of is, but it's just too strange. So I ended up not using it. So it's very smooth, but it just doesn't feel natural. Probably makes very easy to watch Let's Plays though, because the movement would be less jerky. So there you go.
There are other. I mean, recording becomes even more complex if you record from a console. But everyone, we're gonna wrap it up now. But thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed Gopher talking about a myriad of different topics. And hope you enjoyed it. Everyone, take care. Bye bye.